if people were to ask what was what was a corridor manager professionally, she or he is a person that gives technical assistance to the merchants on the corridor or either people in the community. But if you were asked personally, I think anybody can be a corridor manager if you have a passion for the community and the neighborhood and you want to see a change. Reverend Majors had asked me, I had lost my mom, I had lost my sister, and I had got laid off from work, and he knew my heart was heavy. So he found a way for me to fill that void in my heart. And so he said, will you come work for me, help me in the community. And I'm like, I don't know how to be a corridor manager, but it wasn't long after I met, him, and he introduced me to the Department of Commerce, to Dr. Ahada Stanford and her staff, and I started going to the meetings that I learned more and more about if anyone who wants to really change the neighborhood around. Through the Department of Commerce and Call to Serve CDC and also Philadelphia List, they had selected me to go through the 21st Century Safe Growth Training Program, and that's CEPTED. And CEPTED stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And basically what that is, you get training so that you can connect the merchants with the community, the stakeholders, and also the block captains so that we can work together and take blighted areas and turn it around to something that's not an eyesore anymore. I was blessed because when in order to have a CEPTED team, you had to have the block captains, you had to have the merchants, you had to have the stakeholders, you had to have a corridor manager, but you also had to have your police officers. And the two officers that I had on my team are just awesome. I can't say enough about them, and that's Officer Gary Sinclair and Officer Marcus Salas. And from day one, when we met, we were all colorblind. And what I mean by colorblind is that although we look different, we never looked at skin. We looked at each other's heart. And I noticed right away that they had a passion also for their community. When I first scheduled our first meeting was at my church, and I didn't think they would want to come to my church, and they did. And the only time we have missed a meeting is when the Pope had came to the city. And then last week I was out in the corridor with the MBA students from Temple. And as we was going in the stores, I let the first one go by when the merchant said, well, where's the police officer Gary and police officer Marcus? And I let it go. But it was bittersweet because it showed already that the merchants look forward to seeing the officers out on the corridor, and they've made a difference also. They made a commitment when they said, Amelia, we're going to work with you to the end, and they have done that. They go out in the stores, they talk to the merchants, they talk to the folks in the community. And one thing I admire about them is they don't just ride around and patrol in a car. They park their cars, and they go out every week, and they go out in the field with me, and they take time to listen to the concerns and the complaints. But not only that, they take notes, and then they tell the merchants or they tell the community exactly what they're going to do. And they have acted upon things they're going to do. For example, a lot of the merchants said there's bad elements on the corridor. So what the officers did, they put log books in the store, so that way that they can sign the books, but if they have a problem, if they're afraid to tell it, they can write down what the complaint is that's going on in the corridor. Number two, when our first week when we was going down the corridor, we walked the entire corridor. And as we were going back to my church, two of the merchants actually ran around on Broad Street to catch up with us and say, hey, I want to tell you about what else is going on. So now they look forward to the police to come out in the community. They've been dedicated, they've been faithful. And they're here today as part of my CEPTED team. I'm so proud of them. I can't say enough about Officer Sinclair and Officer Marcus Salas.